Why are you way down there?
Start sila.
Hmm, that's interesting. Hmm. Hmm. I see that I have 15 of you so far. Good to see you. I'm going to try and put little 30 or 40-second video clips in today's lesson. We'll see how that works. See if my hotspot can stream enough data fast enough to download a video and then stream it out to you. We'll see. There is an online quiz that should be finished by 3 o'clock. It's 5 questions, true, false, multiple choice. And I'm sorry, there is not extra credit for fixing the true, false. The little quiz app or part of the app or whatever doesn't have the ability to add that to extra credit part to the question. So please get the quiz taken by 3. There has been some issue with the learning management system LMS site. So if you try at least 3 times and still can't get it finished, send me an email. Don't just say, oops, I tried, that's too bad. But if you work at it at least 3 times, send me an email. Hopefully they've got, hopefully we can count on that pretty soon. But I suppose that they're being overloaded like everybody else. And by the way, I'm sure you saw that the governor just issued a 3-week, can't remember exactly what they called it, but stay at home unless you have emergency things. So I guess when my dog or sheeps or something, cows run out of food, then that'll be an emergency. Of course, the good news is agriculture is considered vital for good reason. So I can probably go anytime I want anyway. Oh, well, whatever. Last time we were talking about these well-known bacteria, none of which are exactly desirable. And I'm not going to say everything there is to say about that. But as we go up our list of kingdoms from simple to complex, we've got archaea and then the bacteria. And then after that comes the protozoans, single-celled animals or single-celled plants. And there's just a few of those I'd like you to be familiar with. And my pictures don't really do justice, especially on this first one, which is why the little video clips will come up. All right, amoeba. Simple word though it may be, it is on my favorite word list because of the actual sound this should be if you bothered to try and say it correctly. Amoeba. In fact, I've seen a lot of people recently just spell it maybe like that. That doesn't seem right. I've seen people spell it different, but I don't know how. All right, these are single-celled animals. Notice that we've got animals in quotes because they're not how we think of animals. They're microscopic. If you wade in a lake, they're undoubtedly crawling around in the ooze at the bottom of the lake or in the mud near the shore or something like that. There is actually one form of amoeba that can, apparently it can somehow get into your head and eat your brain, but that's pretty rare. Don't worry about that. And what makes these things...
Ranger, hey.
Sorry, some truck dared to drive by and Ranger has to make sure that everyone knows he's not happy at it. Don't you dare.
Hey, stop it. Stop it.
Shh. You're gonna have to go. Okay. Where was I? So they change shape. They move by flowing, and it's almost impossible, at least to me, to visualize something moving by flowing. So maybe you have this round cell, and then these membranes start to bulge out. And it starts to flow into the membrane, and it might be one or it might be two. Sometimes when they eat, if there's a food particle there, they eat by flowing in two of these pseudopods, and then they would pinch back together here and pinch this into a pinch it together so that this was now inside the cell. So what you don't really notice is or what you can't see in this pathetic two-dimensional picture is that not only...
Ranger! Bad dog.
Come here, Ranger.
What you may not notice is that, or what you wouldn't notice in a two-dimensional picture is that not only is this flowing left and right, but it's also flowing over and under to totally engulf this thing. And of course, it can't just keep infinitely getting bigger and bigger. So as it flows in one direction, the other end pulls up behind it, usually. Sometimes they flow in both directions and get long and skinny. It's just strange. So we'll see if this actually works here. So this is, I wonder if I can get my... Okay, this is an amoeba, and you can see that to the upper right, and my pointer disappears over the picture. So you can see that generally it's flowing to the upper right. On the very top, you can see that that thing that looks like, I don't know how to describe it. You can see it changes, it flowed out, then it flowed back in, now it's flowing back out. So that just gives you a little bit of an idea of how those things work. So, yep, I can't, there's my laser pointer, which is, you know, just a function of the PowerPoint, but it stops when it gets to the picture. So, I cannot think of any way to actually point over top of that picture. But you can see it flowing. We'll look at it again. Wait a minute, did that work? Can you see my pointer over top? Can you see the arrow? Can somebody answer if you can see my mouse trail's arrow, yes or no? You're gonna have to unmute yourself to answer.
Yes.
Yeah,
Cool.
maybe.
All right, so here you can see it flowing up. And here they're flowing out. At the same time, it's flowing down into this pseudopod. Now the back end's coming up behind. So they're just really, really strange. Should be another one. Here is an amoeba eating two paramecia, although it does seem like two paramecia should be redundant. Shouldn't it just be a paramecia? Gee, surprise now. See how it pours, just pours around them and closes off on the other hand, other end, and all of a sudden they're engulfed. They might start jerking back and forth. Oh, there they go. They realize they've been trapped, but they're inside. They're done for. Now they're being squeezed and digested and liquefied. So that's that's what amoeba do. All right, speaking of paramecia, paramecia are slipper shaped. Now, when I say they're shaped like a slipper, they're shaped like the shape of a footprint that a moccasin might leave. I know a lot of slippers have kind of like a light duty shoe footprint, but they're kind of vaguely shaped like a moccasin footprint. This particular batch does not have pseudopods, although they can change shape a little bit, but they are covered with cilia. Now, I didn't bother to draw all the cilia because there would be hundreds or thousands, but the entire outer surface is covered with cilia. The sides, the top, they have an oral groove or a mouth groove that's covered with cilia and leads into a little mouth. And these cilia just sweep the food down the mouth and down that little groove and into the mouth. These live in fresh water, many species, and they have what they call a contractile vacuole. And I don't think I have, I didn't put a specific video of the contractile vacuole, although you may be able to pick it up in the video clip I've got coming up in a second. But these contractile vacuoles actually pump the water out. These live in fresh water, and so water is constantly soaking in through their membrane, and they would be in danger of pressurizing and blowing up, rupturing and spilling their guts out. So this contractile vacuole will get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then all of a sudden, all at once, it will go down to its original shape. And there's usually one at each end, one on this end, and one on this end. And usually the one end will be bigger, and so like this one would go and then this one would fill up and go and then this one would fill up and pump out, and they just kind of continually go back and forth. That's how they keep from rupturing under water pressure when they live in water. So see how this one works. You can see along the edge the shimmer of the cilia right along there. It's on the bottom. You can see it if it rolls enough. Right there. Oh, it rolled back is the oral groove. You can kind of see through. There's right there. You see the oil groove as it rolls over. And they just swim by that, stroking all of their little cilia. There are many kinds of paramecia, many kinds of amoeba, but some of them probably live in whatever lake or pond or stream you go wading in. And you'd need a microscope to see them, so you've never seen them while you were wading anyway. The third major kind here is Euglena. Euglena are very, very special, shall we say, because these are the ones that have chloroplasts, which would be for photosynthesis like plants, and have flagella, which would be for movement like animals. Don't know why this line here keeps popping up. Probably something to do with the sharing app. Anyway, and not only can they swim, they can also eat food. So these are frequently called missile-shaped because they kind of sort of look like the outline of a missile. Some of them have two flagella on the same end, and the flagella don't push like you might think a tail should do. Instead, the flagella are like little propellers maybe that pull this. Now, these can also bend. They can inch along like an inchworm. They can swim with their flagella. There's just a variety of things they can do. So here we can see the, what am I talking about? Euglena. Down here you can see its tail. It comes back out here, and here the end of it loops back in. And this amoeba is going to more do some crawling than swimming. So you can see how it's just kind of pulling itself back and trying to inch along. And the tail is twitching all, the flagella is twitching all the time, but it's not using the flagella for movement. And all of these green spots are chloroplasts.
Why?
I'm coming inside right now.
Okay.
There are lots of videos of Euglena and amoeba and paramecium. If you get terribly, terribly, I didn't mean to do that. If you get terribly, terribly, just a minute. Just a minute, I'll get it going again. Maybe. All right, that's back, right? So if you get terribly, terribly bored when you're stuck inside for the next 3 weeks, by the way, the order doesn't say you can't go outside. You can still go outside and play, run, hike. I don't know if you have any place out in your area to hike or not. Walk the dog. You can actually talk to people. You're just supposed to stay 6 feet apart. But if you get terribly bored, there's all those videos to look at, and some of them are actually pretty cool. All right, this protozoan is it's actually disturbing. It's called Plasmodium, and it's disturbing because it lives in human blood. Well, I was looking for pictures, which I really couldn't find any clear pictures. I mean, I found lots of pictures, but you really couldn't tell what it was. Or if you knew what it was, you could tell what it was, but it wasn't obvious and didn't really prove anything. But what I did notice when I was looking through those, they said this is one of the less deadly, but one of the most common human parasites. Is Plasmodia, the single-celled animals that lives in your blood and in the liver cells. Now, you probably haven't heard of Plasmodium, but you have heard of malaria. Pretty important disease in parts of Africa and South America where it's more humid. Was a major killer of American personnel during parts of what would it be, Vietnam, I guess, and parts of World War II in the more tropical areas. We now have medications, drugs that will kill malaria parasite. And by the way, for whatever it's worth, I just read a couple days ago, happened to notice that one of the areas where people take something quinone, I don't remember exactly, for malaria, where they take it on a regular basis to be protected from malaria. There appears in that area to be less of an issue with this COVID virus. And they're wondering if maybe that whatever quinone doesn't help with COVID too. So maybe there's something coming from this, who knows? Anyway, malaria is transferred from one person to another by mosquitoes. And mosquitoes is one of my favorite words too. If you say it right, if you actually pronounce all of it instead of your particular regional slang, mosquito. It's not carried by all mosquitoes. It's carried by a particular species of mosquito, and it's the genus Anopheles. And I'm not 100% sure I spelled that right. Mosquitoes in the genus Anopheles carry malaria. And Anopheles doesn't grow around here. We don't have malaria issues around here. Occasionally you'll find somebody in a Michigan hospital with malaria, but usually they came up from someplace way farther south. So this is not, for the time being at least, a disease you have to worry about, but of course you've heard of it. So Mosquito bites a person. The mosquito takes up infected blood. In that blood are some microorganisms. Mosquito bites another person. Some of the microorganisms left on its, well, actually, the microorganisms live in the mosquito and infect the mosquito also, and then they get in its salivary gland. So when it bites another person, it injects into the other person some of the microorganism, and the other person gets it, and it just keeps going and going and going like that. This does tend to go in waves. They will tend to have a batch of babies, so to speak, that infect a bunch of liver and blood cells, and then they'll all they'll reproduce in those blood cells and liver cells, and then they'll rupture the blood and liver cells, usually pretty much at the same time. The person will go through a period of fever and delirium, and then that wave will go away and the person will be all right for a while, and then there'll be another wave, and it just keeps going like that. But as I said, now we have medications, so we're in pretty good shape. Are there any questions about those microorganisms? All right. I'm sorry, I saw a hand raised, but I didn't see who it was. Who has a question? All right. Types of fungi, and we're not going to spend a bunch of time going into fungi. And for tomorrow, I will get you some pictures of these. Some of these, okay, mushroom, duh, you know what a mushroom is. Shelf fungi or bracket fungi. You probably know what those are, growing off the sides of trees and so on. Cup fungi, you've probably never seen. And some of you, one or two of you may have, but for the most part, people don't see cup fungi very often. I've only seen cup fungi, I don't know, 2 or 3 or 4 times in 60 years. Morels are what we hunt around here when we mushroom hunt, except they're not mushrooms. Puffballs, you've seen. Yeast, you haven't seen, but you've seen the results. Molds and mildew, all of those things are different kinds of fungi. And as I say, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on fungi, but I will go through and give you an idea of what those things are with several pictures tomorrow. So that's all I wanted to cover for today. Do you have anything you need to ask about protozoans or the quiz or whatever? Yes, Gabe.
What cards like on cram would it be through?
Yes, Gabriel.
No, like what cards? Because like these are different.
All right. False alarm then. He's only scratching his head. He didn't actually raise his hand. All right. We'll get the quiz done by 3 o'clock. You've got an hour about left. It's only 5 questions. It shouldn't be terribly hard. And we'll see you again tomorrow then. Have a good afternoon.